Today, I just have two questions for you. First, what's the only way to have more fun on the trail than a Polaris RZR? And second, what's the best way to bring more than one friend along for the ride? Well, the answer to these questions is the same, the all-new 2010 Polaris RZR. To be honest, this was one we never saw coming, and it's a vehicle we never expected to be as much fun as it actually is. Typically, making a vehicle longer numbs the handling and makes it less responsive. But in the case of the RZR, the added length actually improves the handling and controllability of this chassis at higher speeds. It also provides an even better ride than the unbelievably smooth riding RZR, making the RZR the absolute smoothest and fastest way to get around on the trail. When the crew at Polaris sat down to put the RZR on paper, they knew that simply adding 2 more seats to the back of the RZR was not an option. There's simply not enough room, so a whole new chassis was needed. This all-new family-sized RZR has a full 26-inch longer wheelbase than the standard RZR models, and most of that length was added to the center of the chassis, giving this thing a bit of a stretched limo look. The chassis itself has been stretched, but the rear of the chassis has been redesigned as well to allow for maximum rear passenger room. The rear suspension design is the same rolled double A-arm setup as the RZR, damped by a set of Fox Podium X 2.0 shocks and some of the largest springs you've ever seen on a side-by-side. This suspension setup yields a full 12 inches of travel, but this ain't your average travel. For some reason, it seems like having the rear suspension further behind the driver isolates you even more from a rough trail. Basically, an excellent suspension setup combined with a long chassis makes for one amazing ride. Up front, the driver and passenger would never know they weren't sitting in a regular RZR. Everything from the front seats forward is exactly the same as the shorter RZR, including the front double A-arm suspension setup and amazingly plush 12 inches of travel, along with the Fox Podium X 2.0 shocks. The front end of the RZR feels a lot softer than the RZR, but not softer in a bad way. You can run bumps harder and faster and land bigger jumps without bottoming. While the specs say different, to me, the RZR just feels like it has more travel. Unfortunately, the extra length and weight of the RZR puts more weight on the front wheels. This results in a much heavier steering feel and more steering feedback through the wheel. The answer is, of course, power steering, something we were amazed was not included on the 2010 RZR, but, surprise, is available on the 2011 model. Now that we've covered off both how this vehicle is built and how it rides, we can get into what makes it so special. Simply put, you can use the RZR to show off your driving skills too, or scare the crap out of 3 of your closest friends. Or, for our more responsible viewers, you can take your average-sized family out on the trail in a vehicle that's built to both carry and protect them. And this is important. We see far too many people running around in 2-seater side-by-sides with 2 extra seats bolted in the cargo box. This is extremely dangerous for all the same reasons an aftermarket 2-up seat is dangerous on a 1-up ATV. All the extra weight of the passenger is up high and over the rear axle of the vehicle. In the RZR, the rear passengers sit low in the chassis and forward of the rear axle. Each passenger also gets their own grab handle, side net, seat belt, and a purpose-built roll cage to protect them. Furthermore, everyone gets their own matching bucket seats. One of the craziest and most unexpected things we've heard from a number of our passengers is that they actually feel safer and more secure in the back seat of the RZR than they do in the front. Sure, there isn't a huge amount of legroom back there, and smaller passengers will feel more comfortable than larger ones. But just for the fun of it, I took a spin in the back and can honestly say at 6'1", it's not awful. I've certainly been less comfortable in the back of a few extended cab pickup trucks. Once you and your passengers are strapped in, you're going to need all of this 800 HO's 55 horsepower to get you rolling. The extra weight of 2 more passengers and the added 255-pound dry weight of this chassis add up fast and can drastically change the handling and ride of this vehicle. Properly adjusting the suspension is a must, especially if you want to chauffeur around the whole crew. With that said, the RZR is no slouch and can be driven fast enough to excite even the most experienced driver. The extra length doesn't mean you can't still throttle this thing into a serious power slide or bust out some serious air. What we like most about the RZR and the reason we think it's such a home run for Polaris is that it highlights the thing we like most about ATVing, This sport is all about getting outside and enjoying the outdoors with your friends and family. And so far, we've never found a better way to do that than a Polaris RZR 4.